Hi, everybody, and welcome back to my podcast. Today, we're talking about leadership, and we're talking about those limiting beliefs that can hold us back. So let's look first at where those beliefs come from. It often starts in early childhood. We are taught how to be, we are taught who to be according to the beliefs of our family. So maybe we're taught to be polite, smile, and accept a lot of things that adults do because they're the priority. So as children, even if we're uncomfortable with a situation and it's not working for us, we often don't have the opportunity to say how we feel and have an adult actually listen and give us the support that we need. That doesn't mean as adults we suddenly go, oh, I'm an adult and everybody's going to listen to me and everybody's going to care what I think. No, we go into adulthood carrying those same patterns, and that can translate into allowing our boundaries to be crossed, maybe not asking for that raise, shirking those opportunities to speak up, to stand in front of a group, to share our ideas, because we still feel like that little kid inside that nobody's going to listen to. Those are the kind of beliefs that can hold us back from really checking in with our inner leadership and acting on what it advises us to do. So what happens? Maybe we are in a situation where boundaries are being crossed, and because that's what we were taught as a child to allow for, we still let it happen. We get angry, we get upset. Do we process that internally and say, how can I shift internally so I get a different result? Often, no, we project it on somebody who's not a threat to us. Maybe a friend, maybe a coworker. Wow, this was really hard. I can't believe this person said that to me. Our friend commiserates and we feel better temporarily, but we haven't actually addressed the problem that we never took the opportunity to let our inner leaders show up. And that's what we're working on. So when you have an internal process going on that says, I'm uncomfortable, there's tension here, there's something I need to do about this, then it's really important for us to check in with that feeling and be willing to act on it. What usually happens is you'll get that uncomfortable feeling and either suppress it or project it on a friend. You won't actually process it, work through it, and transform that into a more effective way of being. And that's really what we need to do. Your inner voice, your inner leader is going to take you out of your comfort zone. For you to step into leadership, you're going to have to break the rules of your childhood. You're going to have to be willing to be rude, not because you're being rude, but because you're crossing the line of what you were taught was polite behavior. It might feel like being rude simply because you're standing up for yourself, you're speaking up, you're being clear, you're setting boundaries. That's not going to feel comfortable if you were always taught that that was the wrong thing to do. If you were always taught other people's feelings mattered more than your own. There are ways to be assertive, there are ways to be clear that aren't deliberately hurtful to another person. That being said, if you've been running these patterns your whole life, you're probably surrounded by people who are very comfortable with that. They're drawn to you because they can say and do whatever they like, and you're never going to push back. So when you do make it clear that you feel a certain way and that you want to change how that interaction goes, you're probably going to get pushback from them. They're not going to be happy because they were really liking the way things went. Stepping into your inner leadership, letting that part of yourself shine, is probably going to change some of your relationships. It may very well mean some of them drop away. But remember, nature abhors a vacuum. That means there's likely to be other people who will step into that space who like the person you're becoming, who want somebody who is their equal, who's willing to say, hey, I'm not comfortable with this. I have a problem with this situation. Let's work on this. So your limiting beliefs tend to be, I should be polite, I should be quiet, I don't want to upset anybody, I don't want to hurt feelings. Or those limiting beliefs might be, well, I wouldn't be very good at that. Well, that's not going to work out if I try it. So let's get into that. How often Do we not try something because maybe we're not going to be very good at it the first time? That's okay. Part of this feeling of holding back on who you are and what you do in your life is because you're used to staying in your comfort zone of not fully being present. So you're going to have to get uncomfortable. You're going to have to feel awkward. It's interesting how often that voice of leadership that says, try this, do that, speak up, is very quickly followed by, oh, you wouldn't be any good at that. Nobody's going to listen. You're just going to upset people. We want to start to bring the inner voice out more so it can counter the old pattern that tells us to hold ourselves back. Give that consideration to that feeling inside. You're going to have to really get in touch with what you're feeling in your body, in your emotional self, so that the pattern thinking doesn't hold sway anymore. If you're very calm, if you're very centered, if you're feeling present, open, comfortable in that moment, you're probably standing in your inner leadership. But if there's any tension, fear, anxiety, fatigue, because it takes a lot of energy to hold stuff down inside, then you're probably a little bit off course, or maybe a lot. So let's get you back in alignment. As soon as you feel that tension inside, pay attention to it. Ask internally, what do I need to do to address that? What do I need to know about myself? If you sit long enough, answers will come. And a lot of times we have the answer. We know we're supposed to say something. We know we're supposed to take that action, but we're afraid because on the other side of doing so is the unknown. What if? What if people reject me? What if my family abandons me? What if my friends walk away? I'm not going to lie to you. That's a possibility. When people step into their leadership and they start speaking their mind and they start showing up as they really are, it's not going to fly with the people who are quite comfortable with you being the way you were. Some will adjust, some will shift, some might even celebrate you finally doing what you were always meant to do. And those people are your cheerleaders. They want to be part of your story. They want to be part of your growth. The ones that don't, they may step away. If you take your mask off and they're not willing to take off theirs, they liked the pretense, they may step away. You just have to accept that. But remember, nature abhors a vacuum. New people will come in, and you'll have those opportunities to build deeper, more honest relationships because you're really showing up. You tend to attract other people doing the same. So check in with yourself. When you say, well, that wouldn't work out, I can't, nobody's going to listen to me, that's a protective pattern. It keeps you from taking risks. And maybe that's worked for you for a certain portion of your life. But at the end of your life, do you want to get there safely? Or do you want to get there with the satisfaction that you really showed up in this life? You really did what you came here to do. You were honest. You were clear about what matters to you in this life. And you were effective. You were able to make a difference to the people that you were meant to connect with. People, by the way, you can't connect with if you're holding back parts of yourself. You'll never connect deeply with the most present, effective, amazing people in your life if you're not willing to be one of them. So I leave you with that thought today. Check in with yourself. When you're contemplating a potential situation that you have to deal with, what are you feeling inside? Go below the fear of taking action and ask yourself, what needs to be done? Am I willing to do it? And am I willing to let go of the outcome? Maybe right now you're just sitting in the fear and you're not ready to take action. Okay, sit with the fear. What is the fear attached to? How far back does it go? Is this an early childhood core pattern that's being triggered? Be willing to examine the fear, not just let it rule you, but examine it. And if that's all you do right now, is you sit with the fear of acting, and you contemplate it, you're taking the first step toward your inner leadership. You're taking the first step toward looking at what has been holding you back and what you can do differently so that your life starts to move in the direction you need it to. Because ultimately, for you to really be happy in this life, you're going to have to show up for it. Thanks very much, everybody. I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye for now.